it's Sabrina. So today we're going to be doing our The Girl narrative, Hero Girls thing a little bit differently, and it's going to be a video. So today I'm going to be interviewing Yolande. She is 16-year-old, and she's from Beijing, and she is an extraordinary young scientist, and you're going to see a little bit about her later, so stay tuned for that. So just for some background, what was your childhood like? Were you always interested in science and art, or like what was that like for you?
I feel like, well, it also comes from my parents' expectations. For science, it's not like I have been always very passionate about this. It's just like a class that we have to take, and in the education in China, we don't actually have a lot of our own kind of free time to do experiments or to do the things we actually are passionate about. It's more like lecture based, which is good in a way because I learned a lot more about like background knowledge. But I think my pursuing science actually happened after I came to the US, where I met like amazing good teachers. I had this opportunity to do my own labs, which I found very interesting because I love doing labs way more into just like reading and reciting all those things.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
Don't
And I think for art, I have been learning like instruments and learning like sketching since 5. So I guess that kind of comes from my parents. They want me to learn it. They believe that it's important for one to be artistic, or to at least know something about that. So I think that comes from like a really early age. But I do think coming to Weston actually changed my art style and my pursuit in that area a lot.
Yeah, I totally understand that. So what are so going into questions about your specifics of like science?
Yes.
What realm of science would you say that you work in?
I am very interested in biology, and especially I want to be more like an environmental aspect, more like an environmental science, biology type. I did try. I mean, I'm also good at chemistry, but I really can't do physics. It's not my thing. I kind of like to do environmental way is like mainly 2 reasons. The first reason is because it's way easier to do like environmental aspects and influences on like your testing species in like a high school, because you need less materials, like less complicated, sophisticated materials. And the other thing is I feel like right now we have like global warming, we have climate change, all those aspects are like what we as humans did to the environment. And I'm just really wanted to know how that impact the species, and how we can kind of change that impact.
That's amazing. That's absolutely fantastic. So what do you do? Like what has been your most recent lab? One of the main reasons that I'm interviewing you is because you're interested in science, and because that you recently were in this extraordinary science competition. Can you tell us a little bit about what you did with that?
Definitely. So it actually started with one of the classes I'm taking. I took anatomy and physiology last semester, and as my final project, we did the effect of artificial light at night on the oxygen consumption, which in other words is like the metabolic rate of the green lizards. And from that experiment, we tested that was not like a significant change, so it does not support or like prove our initial hypothesis because the data was not strong enough. And the main reason was because the sample size, obviously, we only had 8 lizards. And I was like, okay, I really want to know how artificial light at night how that impact our species.
How what impacts our species?
Artificial light at night, which is basically just like the overuse of light and light pollution, those kind of things. So I did like a follow-up experiment after that, which was like my science fair project. So I chose fruit flies as my study organism because they're like really reproductive. They lay a lot of eggs within a lot of time. And it turns out that I actually did that experiment twice also, because the first time I had like limited time, so it did not come out really well. And then I redid the thing again, and it turns out it actually supported my hypothesis that artificial light at night actually had a really strong impact on the species reproductive rate. Because the fruit flies in the experimental group, which means that they were put under artificial light at night for like exposure for 20 hours a day. They actually laid considerably less amount of eggs, with just like 2 days of light exposure, the difference, and then the eggs were like much less laid, which actually surprised me a lot because you wouldn't think that this little species would be impacted. Like everyone hates flies, right?
Yeah.
Like when I was searching for effect on fruit flies, and all the things I searched was like, okay, how do you kill fruit flies in your house? Because everyone obviously hates them. But even those kind of like the smallest species I can think about in the environment, they are highly impacted within just that short amount of time.
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of just bring it up to everyone that this actually has an impact. It's like what we're doing is an impact for everything else in the nature.
Yeah. Do you think that this can translate to other species? Like, can it?
Yes. I actually find the similar experiments done on other species, including like spiders. I think also in birds and like American toads, they all show that they have a decreased fitness, not necessarily in their reproductive rate, but like there's definitely a reproduced fitness there.
Wow. Do you think this could even translate to human beings?
Yes. When we're searching the impact of artificial light at night, it actually showed that people who work night shifts, they are more likely to have like weight gain and like metabolic disorders. And it also showed that artificial light at night is associated with like a lot of forms of cancer in the human body, which is kind of crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, like your metabolic rate is just disrupted by that.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Or like, what do you think is like, what is the process of this unnatural light?
Yeah, well, basically, I'm just gonna quote my science teacher.
Yeah.
So she said that human beings are the only ones who does not kind of sleep when it goes dark outside, when like wake up when it gets light, because we stay up late. We have our own kind of routine. It's kind of like not a natural way in a sense compared to other species. But the main reason for that is because we have like a thing called circadian rhythm, right? And that thing controls everything, including like your gene expression, your metabolism, your digestion system, like literally everything. And once you disrupt that system by kind of staying up late or to have like more light exposure, all these other things that it controls just disrupt it.
Yeah.
So it's just like a chain. If you disrupt one thing, all the rest
everything just agresses
yes.
from that. So what was your thought process going into this like science fair? Like, what did you do? What did your process look like? And what was it like going to the competition?
Well, I feel like I kind of wanted to do the competition just to see like outside Weston, because I had been doing Weston Science Fair for 2 years right now. And most kids I know their projects because they were like in my class. Yeah. But I wanted to see like a broader, like in Western County and even in like all the states, what are the others doing? And it kind of, I did use a lot of my free time to do this science fair because for the fly experiment, because I'm testing their reproductive rate, or in other words, how many eggs they laid, which means that I had to sex the flies to males and females, and that took me like a long time, like 10 hours in total to do that. Wow. Because I had like 600-ish flies. Wow. So that's like, that was pain. But besides that, was pretty chill. And the data collection was kind of bad because they laid so many eggs. They were like about 120 eggs in each vial, and you have to manually count them, which is kind of crazy. But I'm so glad that it actually worked out. Like the second time I did the experiment, it is actually a significant difference, that it actually had an impact. That actually means a lot to me, way more than just like spending so much time in the lab. Yeah. That there was a result to this. Yes. That this came to something. That actually had an impact. Yeah. So what was like the final product of your like this experiment, and like what did it like, I know like we talked about the final product, but what did it turn into? Did it turn into a paper? And like how did that? Yeah, I did have a paper for the lizards experiment because it was a good experiment, so I don't need to like write a 13-page paper myself. But for the science fair about the flies experiment, I had a poster to show on the science fair and to talk with the judges. It's actually kind of detailed. I can share with you that. That'd be so cool. I would love to see it. So what has been your favorite lab so far that you've done? I would say this lab actually. I only done like 5 labs in total. One of them is about the Wisconsin fast plants, which like everyone in Bio 2 will be doing. And then I downloaded the crickets lab. They smell so bad, so I was not.
Oh gosh.
I was not really
no.
like that. And the lizards, I do love the lizards, but I mean it's hard to catch them, but they're so cute.
That's awesome.
I feel like I love all the labs. I was actually very surprised because after like sexing the flies, I was like, oh my gosh, it was like literally a workout. To spend like 4 hours in the lab just to like sex the flies, but then it's kind of surprising to me, even knowing that I actually enjoyed it myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a sporty person, so it kind of
No.
surprised me. But yeah, I feel like doing lab is just something I like to do. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And you can learn a lot from each different lab. There are always different things happening.
Yeah. So what do you want to like pursue this? Would you like to be like a bioengineer? Would you like to like study, like would you like to be an environmentalist? Like
Yeah, I would definitely consider it as like my college major. I'm not super sure about like bioengineering or bio like medical or environmental science, but it will be definitely something about animals and like biology,
Yeah.
those kind of things.
something about that.
Something about that. Well, it's a broad range, so.
Yeah. So you kind of talked about your experiment, but I kind of wanted to talk about like overall like your
Yes.
scientific career.
Mhm.
What achievement have you been most proud of as of late?
I would say just West Town Science Fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like a super, I don't know, wild, like, I don't know how to say it. Like, it's just a school-wide science fair. But, I mean, it really means a lot to me, just showing my work to others and just spreading the words out how that impact the species. And I did get, like, first prize for 2 years, so that's, like, really cool.
That's really cool.
And, like, the entire process of being there, I learned a lot because last year I did literacy research. I was doing like cloning and it's like ethnicity and how it actually worked. That was a totally different experience because you had to read a lot of like primary papers to figure out how other people have done with like the same topic. But for this year, I'm more like doing my own experiment, so it's like a totally different path. And it's really cool to just
That's so cool. So now I'm gonna ask some questions that I ask every girl that I ask for an interview.
Sure.
When did you first realize that you were a girl?
I would say kindergarten because I mean I was raised and born in China and we were like super conservative about like the gender roles thing. Like I have never been like a really girly girl. Like I used to like Barbie obviously when I was like 3, but then I don't think I ever wore a dress, like ever wanted to wear a dress during like my free time ever since primary school. And in China, like obviously girls are not supposed to be too close with guys because like parents are not allowed you to have like relationships before certain ages that varies before families. But I think the first time I realized I was a girl was definitely in kindergarten where we have to use like different bathrooms and our teacher's like, okay, because you guys are different genders, so you should not be that close. Although I still have like back in China, most of my friends are guys, but I still do that. But yeah, that's something.
Okay. So do you think you're treated differently because you're a woman? And if so, when was the first time you realized you were treated differently? And this can be in the realm of science or just every day.
I feel like in science, it has been way better. It actually surprised me because when I was doing the Delaware Science Fair, it was like a really big science fair with like everyone from like the 3 states. And there were more girls than guys. That actually surprised me and I was really happy to see that. Like in my category, all of us are girls. And I actually looked in mathematics, everyone are boys, sorry about that. But even in computer science, there were obviously like half of them are girls and the other half are guys, which is not that common even years ago where it just thinks that, okay, all the guys should do engineering and girls should do something totally different. But I think in daily life, for girls it's just a kind of insecure that people will hurt you, like because in China, especially when I was in China, my parents would tell me not to wear like super short skirts or like short pants to avoid sexual assault.
Yeah.
Because those kind of news are just everywhere, not only in America, like everywhere in the globe. And it's just a sense of insecurity that you will be assaulted once.
Yeah.
I think that's just something that otherwise I think there isn't something that actually hurted me a lot.
No, but that's amazing that there was something that like, well, there was more girls than guys. I feel like that's a really big move, and like a lot of people don't realize that or are seeing that, because like we're doing so many motions to encourage this, and we're starting to see like the results of this, which is so cool.
Because women's dance has been like really popular these years, and there actually has an impact. So
it does,
really cool.
Which is so cool.
I know.
So what's a message that you would like to share to young female scientists?
I would say just pursue whatever you want. There are definitely people who are telling you that, okay, you should not be a scientist, you should not be an engineer because that's the guy's job. You are not qualified. And even, I know at least my my biology teacher, she was in Berkeley, and even when she was getting her doctorate degree, her own professor, who was a male, actually said something like really sexist to her.
Wow.
Just like, you're a girl, you cannot do these kind of experiments because you are a female. I think even though if you go to like really scientific places, people still say those offensive words to you. It's just a thing that hasn't been changed entirely in this society. But I would just say, do whatever you want. There are always going to be people who say bad things about you, who discourage you, but you have to believe that you have this talent to do this. And even though you are the first one who do like mathematics, or you're the first one who do computer science, there'll be more people after you do that. So just don't be afraid, even if you are the first one.
That's awesome. Well, that concludes the interview. Thank you so much. You are amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I am probably going to do, like, we're going to do a video of this. So I will send you the finished product, but if you could send me pictures or like anything and like any sort of media that you have, I'd love to include it in the final video.
Do you mean like the posters?
Yeah, like pictures of the posters, the paper that you wrote, like just like it doesn't have to be the full paper, just like a cover page, and then I can include the actual paper at the bottom of the like article or video, whichever we do.
Right.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.